Welcome back to the ABBY IMANI REVEALS Show, where we speak, we are real so that we can live. I'm very excited today because we are going to treat a topic that I'm really concerned about. It's about how to stay fit even to your old age. I keep telling my friends that I want to be running marathons and doing all kinds of crazy sports, even when I'm 18 to 90. So this has a bit of a selfish agenda to it. But I believe that we're all, how do I put it? We'll all be happy if in our old age we are still active and walking and not frail and senile, etc. So today, okay, but before I go into who my guest is, we'll pray. Um, Actually, before the prayer, just to remind us, if you haven't subscribed, go to the ABBY IMANI REVEALS Show. Just subscribe, like the videos, share the link with anyone you think will benefit from our discussions. So shall we say a quick word of prayer, then I'll introduce our guest. Shall we pray? Father, we are so grateful unto you. Thank you that you are concerned about our bodies as well, because you made it. You said we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Today we're going to talk about how we can keep fit. As we keep fit spiritually, we are also making the effort to keep fit physically, because really if our bodies are not strong, it will be difficult for our spirits to function. It will be difficult for us to function in general. So we thank you for the opportunity. We pray that you speak through our guests and give us all the wisdom we need to be able to stay strong and healthy even to our old age. You've told us in your word that even to our gray years, gray hair years, you will preserve us, and that's our desire. So teach us, Father, how to do this. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so our guest is not new to the show. He's been here before. He talked about obesity. His name is Dr. Kwame Aryee. I'm going to leave it to him to introduce himself and tell us a bit about himself, apart from your work and everything, your interests, anything you want us to know. Are you married? Do you have kids? You know, all those things. You'd be surprised these days some people don't wear their ring, so the ring doesn't say anything. So over to
Perfect.
you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Kwame Aryee. I'm a physician and health scientist. I'm in obesity and lifestyle care and also metabolic care for athletes. My hobbies, it's
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could fish. Unfortunately, fishing is not one of the things
Oh,
that
really?
I
Hey, nowadays I have to go to, I don't know where, as a hobby.
as a
I have
hobby.
to go to some, okay, I only know about US. Some states be out there in the
Bass
US.
fishing. Yeah,
Fly
unfortunately.
fishing and all that.
Yeah, no fishing. I can't ride horses either. But
Ah,
I used to be a student athlete for close to 2 decades.
okay.
Yeah, I was a basketball player.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Fortunately,
remember. Yep.
yeah.
You should probably get up. We'll see the height.
No,
We'll
no,
tell you.
I'm shy. That's a lie.
Exactly. And we know.
And I'm also a guitarist,
Yep.
and I'm an oil and charcoal artist. But
Yep.
yeah, these are just
He's
a few of the things that I do.
multi-talented, so to speak. He doesn't just play the guitar. He's being very modest right now. The harmonica,
Abby, stop it.
the guitar, not just the bass, the lead. Which one else? Acoustic.
I think that's it.
Those three, and then you play. Wait, a bit of the piano, right? The keyboard.
Oh yeah,
No.
basic beginner
Okay. Yeah,
things.
he's that good. Yeah, and like he said, he paints. I have a few of his artwork, and it's lovely. He
I
he
beg you.
he does a lot under the spirit. So when you see it, like it
It
wakes
captures
up,
you.
the spirit of God in you. And I'm not kidding. I wish I had brought one of. I think I still have
Wow,
one in my gallery,
you
but
do.
it's somewhere. It will take a while to find. But yeah, we have a
Perfect.
very interesting person with us today. I think the last time we didn't really talk much about you, so it's good to hear all these
All
things.
these
Yeah,
things.
we're glad to have you. So today we are talking about how we can stay healthy. You have what do you call your
Oh yeah. Well, the obesity and lifestyle care I run at RMC, that's Roberts Medical Center.
But
Yeah.
there's another some fitness thing that you started some time ago.
Oh,
I forgot the
oh, that's
name.
TLI.
Is it
Yeah, the
TLI?
Lean Ink.
Yeah, that one. Is it still there?
Um, well, I integrated it into my practice, and so not so
Okay.
much. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great, great, great. Yes. So let me pull up our guide for today. So we'll start with what fitness is. What does it mean to be fit?
Okay.
You know, I'm sure most of us take it for granted that we know what it is, but
Right.
sometimes you realize that what you thought fitness is not really. So
Yeah.
tell us.
Yeah, and this is actually a very good place to start because many people feel like they know what fitness is. Like, oh yeah, I'm fit. I'm
Yeah.
fit. I go to the gym, so I'm fit. But we have multiple aspects of fitness. So broadly, fitness means a set of attributes that one possesses to be able to carry out physical activity, but
Okay.
particularly certain kind of physical activity. And a subset of this definition also explores the ease with which a person performs this physical activity.
Okay.
There are different aspects of fitness,
Okay.
so broadly, we have five types of fitness.
Okay. I'm
Um,
taking notes.
we have five types of fitness.
Okay.
So there is strength, that's muscle strength or muscular strength.
Okay.
There is muscle endurance.
Okay.
There's body composition. There's aerobic fitness or cardiorespiratory fitness. They are the same thing.
Sorry, muscle endurance and then
Muscle endurance, body composition.
body composition. Okay.
Yes. Aerobic fitness, which is also
Aerobic.
known as cardiorespiratory fitness.
Okay.
And the last one is flexibility.
Okay.
Now, these are health related aspects of fitness. But if you're going to look at fitness for athletes, there's a whole list. These are included, but there are some more things like agility, balance, and proprioception, some more things. But for the general population, for health, it's just these five things
Okay.
that need to be explored.
Okay.
So when the gym bros go to the gym and say, "Yo, like I'm fit,"
Uh-huh.
they might be fit in terms of probably body composition
Okay.
based on the kind of workout that they do. The gym bros like to lift heavy, and so
So it's not
they
even
might be.
muscle endurance.
Well, it depends on what kind of workout that they might be doing when they are lifting.
Okay.
Resistance training. We have different types of resistance training,
Okay.
which like explores. It can be free weights, that's like weightlifting, or it can be body weight training.
Okay.
And the kind of resistance training a person does can either confer muscle endurance or change the body composition, so a person
Okay.
has a lot more muscle compared with like the rest of the lean tissue that the person might have.
Yeah. So the fact that you have you're muscular doesn't mean that you have muscle endurance.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah, one has to train because the endurance that muscle endurance we're looking at, it's exploring how quickly the muscle group fatigues in use, And so for we in exercise we look at what we call the specificity training, specificity principle of specificity,
Okay.
where you are training towards a specific goal. So if you are not training to meet that target, you are not going to achieve those adaptations that you need to be able to attain that aspect of fitness. So I give you an example. People always go to the gym, and I think going to the gym is great. Okay, but what is your goal? You always have to
Yeah.
explore what the goal is.
Okay.
What's your goal for going to the gym? Some people say, "Oh, well, I I want to be flexible because I'm always sitting behind my desk." Okay, that's cool. But then you find that these people might be doing like other types of workouts, or they might say that, well, I'm trying to stay quote unquote fit, and they are probably just trying to refer to achieving a low body fat percentage,
Yeah.
which ties into the body composition
Okay.
aspect of fitness.
Okay.
And you'd find them doing flexibility training only. But you are not the metabolic pathways are not in line for you to say that you're going to be doing flexibility training to lose weight. So it all boils down to what the goal is. If someone is, let's start with strength training. So well, we've already spoken about strength. So that's doing body weight training or lifting free weights or whatever. For strength, endurance. There are modalities for endurance. Even when you do some um, cardiorespiratory activity, you might be building some endurance in the muscle groups that you are activating.
Okay.
Body composition. So if someone has a huge body fat percentage, for example, and they hit the gym. Now it depends on one, their age, then also their degree of mobility prior to starting an exercise program.
Okay.
So let's say that this person is like really mobile, but then happens to have a lot of adipose tissue, and they're going to the gym. Then the first thing that they're doing is they're going to lift weights. Lifting weights is great, okay, but then it has to be in addition to cardiorespiratory training, because through the cardiorespiratory training that you're going to expend a lot of energy, what we call calories. Calorie is a measure of energy. So it's through the cardiorespiratory training that you're going to expend a lot of energy, so that you tip the scale towards a lot of energy expenditure. Although it's not that simple, because there are lots of complexities and nuances to obesity and exercise. But when we are looking at the exercise modality for weight loss, it's primarily aerobic type training. And then when you add resistance training at a point, it can enhance the weight loss benefit. But the
Okay.
resistance training is not an end in itself for the weight loss. Of course, that and then the nutritional considerations that go
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there is the aerobic fitness. So aerobic fitness, I really love aerobic type workouts. Okay, so when people say aerobic workouts, everyone starts to think about dance aerobics.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
One, two, three, four. Touch your feet.
That's what we know.
Yeah. And I mean that's good. It's a type of it's a nice workout. Dance aerobics, it's a type of like aerobic training.
Okay.
Aerobic training, we are looking at you, of course, like moving and like having rhythmic movement, um, something that you can sustain for like a long
A long
period,
time. Yeah.
versus workouts that tend to be anaerobic that you might not be able to sustain for longer than 120 seconds, because the metabolic pathways don't sustain energy for longer than that 120 seconds. And so you fatigue quickly, and then you have to rest so that your body can recover the energy, currency that you need to be able to
Keep
undergo the
going.
second bout of exercise. So, yeah, aerobic training, it has a lot of. So let me just give examples. So dance aerobics is a type of aerobic
Aerobics.
training.
Okay.
What else? Playing
Huh.
a sport. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask how many types, but I think you started saying it.
Okay.
Okay. So there's dance aerobics.
Yeah, there's dance aerobics. You can swim.
Okay.
Um, you can play a sport. Now, some sports are mixed aerobic and aerobic, but you still get the benefit of both, and that's a great thing.
I see. I never knew this.
I'll
But
try
I
to
also
sound as non-scientific as possible. The
yes,
last time I
yes,
was
please do.
overly scientific, so this time I'm going to be very simple.
would really appreciate that.
Yeah. So playing a sport is great, like basketball, football. Of course, there are bursts of activity that tend to be anaerobic. Like if someone is sprint, you can't sprint for longer than say 120 seconds. You're going to deplete a lot of the energy stores that are responsible for that type of activity. Okay. So running, jogging, these are aerobic type workouts. If you're going to look at what we call steady states, like exercise, these are things that you can do for like a prolonged period. So if one wants to like jog or run for 30 minutes, they can do that for 30 minutes straight. But no one can sprint for 30 minutes straight. Yeah.
So walking too is part of. You mentioned walking.
Yeah, walking is
Yeah,
part.
because that's what I do a lot these days.
Okay. But you see, it's a spectrum, and So we have light intensity, moderate intensity, and
Mm.
vigorous intensity,
Yeah.
and you get the best metabolic benefits when you do the harder thing. So if you
Okay.
do vigorous, you get a better metabolic benefit.
Mm.
Benefit.
It's allowed.
Benefit, but it doesn't mean that that's what you you need. You can still do moderate intensity
Mm.
and get the great metabolic benefits, especially because if you have health issues that might contraindicate going into vigorous intensity,
Yeah. Yeah.
it makes no sense for you to hop into vigorous,
Mm.
and especially if you've been sedentary for a very long time
Okay.
and you want to get back into physical activity and or exercise, and you start right off the bat, you hit
Mm.
vigorous intensity. Like there are so many
And you
things that
break
can go
down.
wrong. Yeah,
Mm.
if you have some pre-existing medical issues that you didn't know about that crept up while you were sedentary, like if you had hypertension or
Mm.
um, diabetes or whatever, any chronic, most of the chronic conditions that a person can have, if a person is on an unmonitored exercise training protocol,
Mm.
it can, the exercise that's supposed to make um, a person better might actually crash the person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like what the father of modern medicine said, Hippocrates, that anything done in excess opposes nature. But I'm going
Mm.
to add that anything done in excess and or is unmonitored is will
Okay.
oppose nature.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So if it's monitored, it's
Yeah.
okay. It can
Yeah, if it's
be
monitored
for your
by,
benefit.
yes,
Mm.
by a trained
Okay.
exercise professional.
Mm.
Yeah.
Great. 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 So I think you've touched a bit on the next question, but if you can elaborate a bit more. So the things that can prevent people from being and staying fit. You mentioned some sicknesses,
Yeah, 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 illness.
illnesses, yes. So what else can
Yeah.
prevent
Um,
either physiologically, mentally, like
right.
any limitation
Limitations
to staying fit?
to staying fit. So I mentioned illness. So let me just say more about illness before I talk about other things.
Okay.
Now, if someone has an acute illness,
Hmm.
say person has malaria or has a sore throat or has a fever,
Hmm.
um, you might hear fitness enthusiasts say, "Rain or shine, keep the grind, hit the gym, get those reps in. Are you sick? Exercise is your medicine. 2 spoonfuls a day
Uh-huh. I can
of the
actually
barbell."
picture someone in the gym right now.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Let me see. Um, you drink or spit the water out. Hit the gym. What are you doing? Hit the gym. No, no. So if a person has an acute illness, please, please
Yeah.
never exercise.
Mm.
You at home, please never.
Mm.
If you are acutely unwell, please never
Mm.
exercise.
Mm.
The thing is, if someone has an infection, for example, engaging in exercise, like already there's an accelerated energy expenditure from the illness. Okay,
Mm.
they might also not be eating well because of some of the chemicals that are released in the body during
Yeah.
an acute illness or an infection. And going ahead to exercise, exercise can be anti-inflammatory. Okay,
Mm.
it can be.
Okay.
um, Sometimes it can be what we call pro-inflammatory,
Mm.
as in it can incite some kind of inflammation,
Mm.
but at large, exercise is mostly anti-inflammatory.
Inflammatory.
Okay, so
Okay.
it tends to there are some chemicals that tend to dampen an inflammatory response,
Mm.
especially if one were to engage in vigorous intensity activity. Okay, um, it prompts the release of cortisol,
Okay.
which is what we call a glucocorticoid. It's a steroid, so it tends to reduce a person's inflammatory response and
Okay.
prevents the soldiers from going where they have to go.
Mm.
And so, if one is sick, the body, particularly in the setting of an infection, the body is trying to combat the infection with an inflammatory response. And now there's a beautiful sequence of things, of events when a person is sick to when a person starts to recover. You have the chemicals that help the soldiers wage war, and then at a point, things tend to subside, and then now you have an anti-inflammatory effect. Okay, so now everyone calm down. But you don't get to that stage. Right at the peak of the battle, you start to throw arrows at your soldiers. Like, my guys, relax. Like, that's the worst thing to do. And you can actually feel worse when you work out when you are sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, especially when people have a sore throat, like, it's the worst thing to do because unaccustomed exercise, vigorous intensity exercise, you you lose your immunity in the throat momentarily, and it can make the sore throats even worse.
Worse. I
So,
think during the COVID, I think you even came down with something like that.
yeah.
You did say that you went to the gym and then no longer
Oh yeah,
survived.
I have my own equipment, so I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
doing my
And
own
then no longer
lifting.
survived. You just broke down.
Yeah,
And there were other stories too during the pandemic where people were active and then within a short time they just came down with the
with the
virus and
virus.
they were completely
Yeah,
broken. So I'm sure it had probably started, but they hadn't realized it.
exactly.
So then
So
the
probably they
exercise just
are.
aggravated, and then
Yeah,
they went down.
exactly. So yeah, if you're ill, do not work out. Yes. So there are other things that can prevent or limit people's exercise capacities or participation.
Sorry, we're in the path of airplanes, so every now and then you'll be hearing them passing.
Time out.
Part of life.
Yes. So yeah, so limitations to exercising, right? Or engaging in physical activity. So we can look at it from um like at the individual level. So the participants level.
Okay.
So what are some of the things that may deter a participant from engaging in physical activity? Work schedule is one of them, and that's the most popular thing. Oh, I don't have the time. I don't have the time. No, you can make the time.
You've heard, you can make the
Yeah,
time.
you can make the time. You don't find time for things. You have to make the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it means saying no to one or two things, that's a good thing. You don't need to work out for, like, we have recommendations for adults, physical activity recommendations for adults that do at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise. We're looking at like 150 to 420 minutes. Or if it's vigorous intensity exercise, at least 75 minutes per week.
Okay.
Or you can do a mix of both. Um, but it doesn't if you can't do so, that translates roughly into 30 minutes per day for 5 days
Okay.
roughly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it 30 minutes a day for 5 days.
Okay.
That's a cute way to simplify it.
Okay.
Yes, but even if we're going to look at it as 30 minutes a day, it doesn't have to be straight up 30 minutes of hardcore. I'm going to do this workout for 30 minutes. I'm not going to stop. Once I hit the 30-minute mark, that's it.
Then
No. So
it's cumulative.
yes, so it can be cumulative.
Okay.
Yes. There's been great work by Professor John Jakishich, where he showed, demonstrated through his research that one can still get great metabolic benefits from exercise if you break it in
Okay.
bits. So if it's
Okay.
10 minutes that you're going to do, and you're going to do 10 minutes, maybe say 3 times a day, and that adds up to 30 minutes.
Okay.
It's still good. And little exercise is better than no exercise.
Yeah.
And we've seen this, that it's, say, the weekend warrior, for example, who happens to have a considerable amount of adipose tissue, is better than the lean person who does not engage in any exercise at all. The weekend warrior is just going to the basketball court on a Saturday, 2 hours to play basketball.
Okay.
But he has better cardiometabolic
Yeah.
protection And when we look at all-cause mortality, that's mortality or death from any cause whatsoever, he has um, uh, more better. No, he has a benefit or he has an edge over the person who is lean and does not engage in any
Yeah.
kind of physical activity. So that's how powerful exercise is. So
Because it's interesting. We tend to judge based on
yeah,
your body fat composition. When we
right,
see people who seem to be big,
yeah,
and then we look at those who are slim, we think that the slimmer ones are
yeah,
healthier or stronger
yeah.
than those with some. Yeah. So
Adipose tissue.
there you go.
I'm telling you, and someone you might see someone who has a huge, well, a lot of adipose tissue, but would not have the complications you might expect, like cholesterol issues, what we call dyslipidemia, or diabetes. They might not have those manifestations, but someone who's really lean and is not doing anything might feel like I'm protected. I mean, my metabolism is high.
Hi.
So
I've heard that one too a lot.
no, no, I'm sorry. Look, people troop into the emergency room with heart attacks, and many of them are not. Many of them don't have abdominal fat mass or all round fat mass. Lots of them are slim and skinny, and they're getting the strokes. They're getting the myocardial infarctions. That's heart
Yeah.
attacks.
Yeah.
Of course, we have a lot of people who are diabetic. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. But there are some people who don't have diabetes, or they might have diabetes and hypertension. A lot of the people who are slim have diabetes and hypertension. And they come in with a stroke and a heart attack.
Heart attack.
So it's erroneous to think that you are protected if you are slim. Yeah, you can't use your physique to determine your cardiometabolic risk.
Yeah.
Although being obese is definitely a risk factor for cardiometabolic
Yeah.
disease. But you
Yeah.
can't say that because you are not obese, you are safe.
Okay.
So another barrier is some of the conditions that we talked about. So if someone has exercise intolerance
Okay.
because they have asthma,
Okay.
um, or cardiac disease, any kind of illness. And so this is where they need to be stabilized in the hospital. They need to make sure that
Okay.
all is well and their physiology has been restored in the hospital before they work closely with a qualified exercise professional for them to now engage in graded, or what we call periodized exercise. But again, it depends on the modality, what kind of fitness that you are targeting. And if you want to avoid cardiometabolic disease, it's cardiorespiratory training, which is best. And then also adding resistance training is a great thing to do.
Okay.
Now, if we're going to look at, oh, by the way, if your schedule is a problem, it can be great to wake up really early in the morning to do some amounts of exercise. And that really helps, especially if your goal is to achieve a good body fat percentage.
Okay.
Because there are some biochemical pathways that play into, um, like when your liver glycogen is like close to being completely depleted, and then you
What's
are.
the liver glycogen?
Oh, that's your like your carbohydrate stores. Okay,
Okay.
so the muscle has its carbohydrate stores, and the liver also has carbohydrate stores. That's for like the whole body. And so if you're going to engage in aerobic exercise on an empty stomach, it's of course if you have a peptic ulcer disease, it's always best to eat something and have like a consistent meal timing, and not like do some of these things that we're talking about. Yes.
Speaking of peptic ulcer, I learned that exercise kind of helps with
In,
that.
in what regard?
As in, I forgot the details, but of course, not when you're not eating and not treating it.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that helps you recover is to be fit, like to be physically, like be active.
To be active.
Yeah, physically
Okay.
active.
So I would say that physical activity helps a person with what we call a duodenal ulcer maintain a good body fat percentage, because the peptic ulcer we have broadly two types.
Oh, okay.
If we
Okay.
are going to look at it like broadly, there's one last type that happens lower down the gut, but
Okay.
two types. That's gastric and duodenal.
Okay.
So the one in the stomach, where it's when they eat. Usually, it's in older people like around 55 years and beyond. When they eat, they feel the pain, not when they're hungry. But the duodenal, it's when they're hungry that they feel the pain. And so they have to keep eating and eating and eating, especially if they have bad meal choices or bad food choices.
Okay.
They'll keep eating, and they typically tend to have, you know, a huge body fat percentage because they're constantly eating. And
Okay.
so physical activity definitely will be helpful for them. And if they are going to engage in planned physical activity, which is exercise for weight loss, then they will need to work with an exercise professional and someone, a nutritionist. Okay, so um, especially an exercise nutritionist, so that these two work hand in hand to reduce the body fat percentage.
How about acidity?
Hyperacid. Oh,
Yeah.
GERD, reflux.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does exercise help with that?
So yes, exercise helps speed up um, uh, bowel motility. Okay, and it also helps with gastric emptying. The thing is, norepinephrine tends to make people hungry. Okay, that's one thing it does, especially when someone starts an exercise program. And so, like everything tends to be really fast. And within 72 hours post exercise, the basal metabolic rate is also elevated
Okay.
to a small extent. And so everything is happening fast. And so you eat, and the next thing you know, you're hungry again, and you have to keep. It's, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So exercise really helps with gut motility. And one thing that people always experience when they are on a program to reduce their body fat percentage is, there are some gut flora changes in obesity, and the people with obesity tend to have a lot of gas in their guts also. And when they start an exercise program, they start to pass a lot of gas. So yeah, all the gas that's
Gaseous
trapped in,
emissions.
I'm telling you, the green gas effects, like all of all of the gas that's trapped in there
Come
expelled.
out.
I mean,
Okay.
even even for me, because also like our food is infiltrated with a lot of lipids also, and the gut bacteria tend to act on these also, and it's a complex sequence, and we tend to produce a lot of gas. Some of the bloating that you see, or some of the belly enlargement that you see, someone might be slim and might be walking around with. The person, it might not be fat mass. Sometimes it's gas,
Oh, really?
especially from the food choices. And so
I
when that
see.
person also starts physical activity,
Mm,
they
it
tend
will
to
go down.
release a
Wow,
lot of the
that's
gas.
interesting.
And even in laparotomies, if we're doing surgeries and we open up the gut of a person who has considerable amounts of fat mass, you see that the guts, the intestines are it's so distended with gas. So I mean, anatomically we see it, and
Okay.
microbiologically there is evidence for that.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So with the hyperacidity or the reflux, yes, it does help because when your body fat percentage is high, sometimes it might be a thing with increased intra-abdominal pressure from intra-abdominal. It could be intra-abdominal fat or the gas that's produced. The intra-abdominal pressure tends to be high, and so that promotes um, the um, reflux. Also, if
Okay.
a person is used to eating and then shortly afterwards going to lie
Lie
down,
down.
that also tends to affect the sphincter up there, and so they tend to have the reflux a lot. But then exercise, because of the fast the gastrointestinal motility, it really helps that. And when the body fat percentage reduces, it also reduces the frequency of the reflux, so we call GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease.
Okay, okay. I think it's more of that I read on.
Okay.
So not necessarily the peptic ulcer
Right. Okay.
condition. Yeah. Great. So we mentioned some of the limitations: work schedule,
Yeah.
exercise intolerance.
Yeah. So if we're going to look at things beyond our control or the participants' control, if you look at your neighborhood, if your neighborhood isn't great, you want to go for a run.
That's the story of a lot of neighborhoods in Ghana.
Yeah,
It's such a shame.
it's such a shame. You want to go for a run,
Yeah.
but your neighborhood is it's a dirt road all around,
No
or
sidewalks.
no sidewalks. You might have stray animals,
Stray dogs.
stray dogs.
Yeah. And some of them come in packs.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
You
yeah.
can
You're
never
in
be too
trouble.
sure.
Yeah. And so if the neighborhood is unsafe, it's a problem. If it's a dirt road, you have uneven ground. It's a health risk. It's a hazard because, especially if you haven't been proprioceptively trained like really well. That's balance. So
Please
like
come down to our level. Propio what?
no. So let me explain. So if you haven't trained in a way to be conscious of your joints, and something that athletes do. So if you don't have that kind of training and you're going to you want to start uh, your fitness thing and you go on a run on uneven ground, yeah, you might twist your ankle, you
Yeah.
might sprain your ankle,
Yeah.
so it's another risk.
Okay.
Yeah. And then also availability of fitness centers if you want that communal
Yeah.
atmosphere.
Okay.
Because people tend to spur you on, like, hey, keep going, keep going. But you might not have any in the neighborhood. You have to travel uh, 11 kilometers to the nearest gym. I mean, that's not cool. Yeah.
Because sometimes waking up alone to get to the gym is wahala.
It's wahala.
Much more if you're supposed to travel, like you said, 11 kilometers to get there. You wake up and you just turn in your bed and sleep again.
Yeah, yeah.
But what you said about the neighborhood thing, it really is something that I'm sad about because we we are lacking a lot in that
Yeah.
area. We just want to walk, do some brisk walking. Here, fortunately, we have an estate close to us.
Right.
So, but we still have to go on dirt roads before we get to the estate.
Right.
Then we get onto the tad and do our brisk walking.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of neighborhoods don't have, they hardly have, we don't have parks that you can just, even if
No.
you want to take a leisure walk, no
No, you
parks to
can't.
go to, sidewalks. Some of the sidewalks have been overtaken by hawkers.
Oh my goodness.
It really makes my heart bleed. I'm hoping that it looks like Ghanaians now we are picking up on the exercise thing.
Yeah.
People are becoming more conscious,
More
and are making
conscious.
the effort. Now a lot of people go to those who are close by. They end up going to campus. When you go to campus, University of Ghana campus, a lot of people after work you see them
Ah,
doing
nice.
their.
Okay.
I used to do most of mine there too, but lately I do more in in my neighborhood.
Okay.
But yeah, that's like the only place where you can get a proper how do I say it? Not setup, but environment.
Environment. Okay.
To do good exercise. It's a bit difficult when the students are in school.
Right.
They are restricted to just a particular part of the campus. But when they're not
Okay.
there, you can do the whole campus. So
Yeah.
far, apart from there, there's no other place I can think of.
Okay.
Where in my environment, I don't know whether
Right.
other neighborhoods, maybe Dansuman or something, they have their own exercise places. Yeah, but something
Yeah.
that I think we really should look into and develop.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it's very helpful.
Yeah.
For me, walking, I used to do high intensity
Okay.
exercises, but unfortunately, I wasn't eating well.
Ah,
So I
okay.
started having some acidity,
Okay.
and I was diagnosed with ulcer, but it wasn't the abdominal one because I didn't have any pain. It was mainly the acidity in my chest,
Oh, okay. So you had
you
good
know.
the reflux
Yeah,
disease. Okay.
yes. So I had to tone down on the high intensity. I
Uh,
used to use some videos on YouTube,
okay. You're doing a
but
lot
it
of
was really
abdominal
effective.
workouts.
Part of it was, yeah,
Right.
so
Okay.
abdominal,
So that's what was
abs,
okay.
yeah. So, and
That's-
I wasn't having breakfast. I wasn't even drinking water, in the morning,
You're drying yourself up.
you know. Now I've learned the hard way,
Ah,
So now,
okay.
even when I don't eat breakfast, I drink some water, and
Okay.
I've had to cut down on there. So I'm sticking to walks for now.
Okay.
There are times where I do running too,
Okay.
in between. Like I walk, run. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's been good.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
yep, yep.
that's definitely better than
Yeah. All right. So we've mentioned some of the things that prevent people from staying fit. How can these things be managed or gotten rid of? Like some of the illnesses or the
right.
things beyond our control.
Hmm.
What can we do such that they are not inhibitions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, eventually, you are doing things for yourself. Okay, you can't say that because
The
my
gym is
neighborhood
far.
doesn't, yeah, the gym is for my neighborhood doesn't have X, Y, or Z, so I'm not going to do A, B, or C.
Speaking of it, let me sip some water.
Okay.
Oh, please go on.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, it's something that you're doing for yourself, and so the best thing to do would be to tell yourself that you are not going to make any excuses. No, I'm not going to make, if I need to get this done, I'm not going to make any excuses. I'm going to get it done. Okay. So once you make up your mind that you are going to be more physically active, then you can start looking at ways to do that. So
Okay.
it all depends on what the limitation is.
Yeah.
So if it is your work schedule, for instance, you just try and find ways. So if you can wake up early in the morning to do 20 minutes before you go to work, 20 minutes of whatever kind of, if based on the modalities that we've talked about or the types of fitness, whatever you're going to work on, you're going to spend 20 minutes to do that. That's cool. Of course, you start gradually. But if you've been physically inactive for quite a long time, you definitely need to see your doctor so
It's a good
that,
idea.
yeah, if there's any,
Sorry, how about a gym instructor? Or
so gym instructors are great, but you see, we need someone who is health inclined because
okay,
there's no sphygmomanometer, that's the BP monitor. There's no BP monitor at the gym.
true.
There's no
That's something they should
ECG
get, right?
machine. Well,
Or you don't
yes,
think it's
I well it can be good. I mean, if we're going to look at from a public health standpoint, if we're going to look at ways that um, hypertension can be caught um, pretty early before there are complications or bad things that happen from the hypertension, then yes, having a swig at the gym would be good. Just that they would need to be taught when to do the monitoring, because these are people who are going to do some kind of activity. If they've just gotten to the gym, you can't check the blood pressure because it's going to be a little elevated. If they've just finished working out, depending on the workout that they've done and based on the duration,
okay.
the BP might either be really high, normal, well, it might be high, normal, or low.
Okay.
So there are ways to check the blood pressure. So yeah, that's definitely a good idea from a public health standpoint. Especially how, like, looking at how um, they I think there were some barber shops that were
Yeah,
asked to do
there are
the,
studies
was it
on that.
HIV testing or was it BP
It
monitoring?
was BP
It was BP
monitoring.
monitoring.
Yeah, I
Yes.
know someone who did that. In fact,
Yeah.
three people,
Aha.
two in the States and one here in Ghana.
Great.
Yeah.
So definitely, if it's to pick up some of these things, but then there are some things that need to be done in the hospital.
Okay.
Like um, cardiac examinations, further cardiac testings, or whatever, based on what a person's issue is. If
Okay.
the person has diabetes and has some complications, there are some exercises that a person might not. There are some exercises that a person should not do. Okay, if a person has had, say, a ruptured brain aneurysm, there is that resist weightlifting, doing what we call the Valsalva maneuver, where you hold your breath. That's bad technique for lifting. You shouldn't be trying to, and doing that can raise the intracranial pressure and it can rupture
Yeah.
another
Another
aneurysm, which is
aneurysm.
the. So exercise looks very simple, but there are it's very nuanced, and you definitely need to be cleared by a health professional before you go back into being really physically active if you've been inactive for quite a long time. Someone with proliferative diabetic retinopathy, that's some abnormal blood vessels at the back of the eye. You go and do some kind of resistance training, you might pop it, and the issues that lead to that with your
Yeah.
vision,
Yeah.
you know if there is a cardiac issue, then you go and lift, or you go and do some vigorous kind of activity. It really arouses the fight or flight response for the whole
Okay.
body, and it might throw the heart into beating up abnormally fast. So that's another problem.
Yeah.
So yes, if anyone has been physically inactive for quite a long time,
Okay.
yeah, they need to be reevaluated. Yeah, especially if it's been up to like a year of being physically inactive, you need to be reevaluated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When you're talking, my mind went to stories I heard of people who suddenly passed away while engaging in some form of physical activity.
yeah. So that's sudden cardiac death. That's usual. That's most the one of the that's one of the commonest things that happen, but especially in athletes. But the risk is very, very, very low.
Okay.
It's well below 5%.
Okay.
Probably,
Okay.
I think, even under 2% per
Okay.
year. Um, but then the commonest causes, an abnormally huge heart, an abnormally muscular heart, not necessarily muscular from an adaptation of the exercise training.
Okay.
Uh, it's what we call hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy, and
Hypertrophic
trophic
obstructive
obstructive
cardiomyopathy.
cardiomyopathy.
Hey, such a mouthful. Lord help us. Hey, you shoot all these things in medical school. Chalet, you guys, you do really well.
Oh, we're trying. We're trying. What can we say?
Great,
So
great. Yeah.
there is that. There are also arrhythmias where a rhythm, so abnormal rhythm where the heart isn't beating well. Doom, 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 doom. So
How about fluttering? Like,
yeah, well, so that's a type of arrhythmia, what we
okay.
call atrial flutter. Yeah. So these are some of the commonest causes of sudden cardiac deaths. Um, yeah, I'm not going to tell you the sport that happens
The most.
the most. Yes.
We don't want to scare
So no one
anybody.
is scared. No, but the benefits. We always say that the benefits of exercise always far outweighs the risk, and so it should never be you should never think that, oh, you have X, Y, or Z, or you should always see your physician, especially if there's been a family history of heart attacks
Yeah.
or heart disease, um, or sudden death. These should prompt you to seek medical clearance prior to engaging in physical activity, so that the same thing doesn't happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the case with the exercise intolerance
Hmm.
due to asthma, and so that's a bit of what you've talked about.
Right.
So let's say you mentioned asthma. So let's say someone has asthma.
Hmm.
What kind of exercise can they engage in
Okay.
to keep
Okay.
fit?
So when people have like really severe asthma, it can affect how well the body gets oxygenated. And so they really need cardiorespiratory training to help with what we call like vascularization of the muscles. Of course, resistance training too does that. Um, so someone with asthma, definitely they have to, their physiology, their abnormal, um, the disease, okay, has to be controlled in the hospital before a person starts to work with, say, their respiratory physiotherapist, for example. You know, and they can be doing that along. So at a point where the person can tolerate some kind of activity, it always has to be periodized. Okay. There are multiple types of exercise testings that can be done so that a person sees what their limit is as a benchmark, and then
Okay.
subsequently you also see if they are improving. But yeah, if
So the
someone has
limitation can be taken away with
sometimes,
help.
yeah, with help. I wouldn't say taken away. It's always on a case by case basis, and
Okay.
one size never fits all. It depends on how the person responds to exercise.
Okay.
But it all starts with achieving control with medication in the hospital and being compliant with doctors' directives and being compliant on the medication, taking the medication all the time. Otherwise, because we can't jump the gun. You you already have you're already breathless from the asthma. Going to engage in physical activity, going to engage in exercise, you're you're going to burden the lungs even more. You can't even run
Yeah.
for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's something that needs to be controlled in the hospital. Work with their of course, with a respiratory physician or a physician specialist, and working with their respiratory um, physiotherapists.
Okay.
And then at some point, working alongside their exercise professional.
So the case with the neighborhood not being conducive,
Yeah.
I guess, like I mentioned earlier, there are videos online
Hmm.
that we can resort to
Yeah, yeah,
if
yeah.
we can't go out,
Hmm.
in the comfort of your home,
Hmm.
your bedroom.
Yeah,
There are some exercise routines.
yeah.
Yeah, but because you mentioned earlier that there are different types,
Hmm.
so what would you recommend? Like basic exercises that
Okay,
anybody and everybody can do?
can do. So there are invaluable resources on YouTube. Um, that one can just search and follow along. Specifically, so if you are an office worker or you are always sitting at one place, stretching is you always need to engage in some flexibility training. So especially for the hips, because the hips might get tight, and whenever parts of the body, when there's a problem with a part of the body, it can be the axial part of the body, that's like the trunk or or the core or a leg. Eventually, what can happen is because one might try to correct what has happened by walking a certain way, you tend to change how the body is structured, like from a
Okay.
biomechanics standpoint. Like the way you walk might change, and it
Okay.
might start to put pressure on some parts of the body. You might start to have some muscle imbalances at some places, you know. So that's what makes flexibility training really important. So you're always sitting, the hip flexors get really tight. You might eventually start to get low back issues. So stretching is really important.
So when you say stretching, how?
Oh, we have different types of stretching.
Okay.
Passive stretching.
You can demonstrate.
Oh,
We
oh
are
no.
well dressed. You know, I didn't even talk about our outfits. I mean, we are wearing this to show you how serious we are about our physical health, physical and mental, emotional, everything. Yeah. So yeah, feel free. I mean, we can do a
Oh,
few
don't worry. I'll
demonstrations,
do it in my
or
mind.
you can tell me. I'll do it.
Oh,
You can
to
show me. Yeah, I don't mind. I'll
oh.
demonstrate it.
Okay, you have to after.
Yeah. Oh no no! Oh my god! I'm serious. Just show me. Is it throwing the arms out?
Oh,
What kind of
well.
stretches are we talking about here?
So so stretches for the hip flexors,
Okay.
especially for people who are always sedentary
Okay.
and doing some like bridging. It's I think it's called bridging. So you tend to
Mm,
engage the glutes also because you tend to inactivate the glutes by sitting too much.
okay.
So yes, so this strengthens the core in some way, and then also helps with the hip flexors so that you don't get back issues.
Is it the one that you hold your waist and then go this way, that way?
No, no,
So
no, no, not that one.
yeah, show me. Let me show. Let me demonstrate it so that our audience will
Okay,
see.
maybe you can
Okay.
demonstrate.
I can stand, right? Okay. Show me.
Oh, but you,
Tell me what to do and I'll do it.
okay. So, so it's like this.
Ah,
So
okay.
you lunge forward
Okay.
and
Ah,
go as far as possible.
yeah.
But
I've done
I
this.
like to make my hind foot flat
Okay.
that way. Because the sneakers, I can't do that.
Mm,
And then go as slow as possible to stretch the hip flexors.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I've done this, but mostly we do it when after a routine,
Okay.
after an exercise routine, and then they'll ask you when you're winding down
Okay.
to do this like these stretches
Right. Yeah, it should be
to
done
finish before and after.
before and
Yeah,
after. Yeah.
to end your exercise.
As
Okay,
part of the cool down. So
okay.
yeah, we have
So
warm up
that's
and cool down.
one of
Yeah.
the stretches. Is
Yeah.
there another kind?
Oh
The one I was
well,
talking about is the one that goes like this way, that way,
that way. Okay.
or it's not part of the stretches,
Oh well, I
or
mean,
like that.
okay. So that's also great because it helps stretch out the lats. What we call the
Okay,
latissimus dorsi.
okay.
It's a muscle over there.
Mm. And then we do like that.
Oh, that's for the
Yes.
deltoids. I mean, that's cool. The
What
so
are the deltoids?
oh the shoulder muscles.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Um, but so these are passive stretches.
okay.
Um, but I like to foam roll a lot. It's called SMR. That's self myofascial release.
Okay, which
So
one is that?
so it's using a foam roller.
Okay.
So
Is it
with the
that thing with similar to this,
yeah,
or
so it looks like
it has
this.
one
Yeah.
roller in the middle?
No, no, not the wheel.
Okay,
It's the foam roller. It's like a cylinder.
okay,
So it's cylindrical,
mm.
and it might be smooth or it might have projections.
Okay.
So one can use it on their back, on their legs,
Mm.
different body parts.
Ah, I think I've seen what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Okay,
So
okay.
I only do me personally I do only when it comes to passive stretching I do only the the hip flexor stretches.
Okay.
But everything else, I foam roll.
Mm.
You can call me lazy, but it's. I feel like it even takes
It's
more
working for
energy
you.
to do the SMR than to
Okay.
passively stretch. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. 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 Cool.
And if we are looking at performance in let's say sports, if I'm going to play basketball, for instance, the SMR will sort of preserve my performance
Mm.
rather than passive stretch because passive stretching might reduce performance to a
Mm.
small extent.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay. Okay. All right. So where are we? So yes. So what other exercises apart from the stretching
Oh,
at home?
flexibility. Okay.
Yeah.
So there is, especially for, given that this discussion is looking at a spectrum from being young to um, from pediatric to geriatric. Um,
Because we want to make
yeah,
it's a lifestyle. Make
yes,
fitness a lifestyle.
yeah,
So as much as possible, we want to be able to, if not eliminate, somehow be able to manage the things that limit us
right,
so that we can keep up with our fitness.
yeah,
How do I say it? The
lifestyle,
word
fitness
life. Yeah,
lifestyle, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
So I would always say, and I want to re-emphasize this, that um, little exercise is better than no exercise
Yeah.
at all. So if you're able to do 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it's better than doing nothing at all. Um, so while we're looking at flexibility, let's just throw in proprioception or balance. So
Okay.
it's a really good thing to train, um, especially as one ages, to prevent falls. Okay,
Okay.
because the elderly are very prone to falls,
Mm, mm,
and exercise really helps limit that. It helps prevent falls in the elderly. It's what we call neuromuscular, like a neuromuscular type of training, where okay, let me just give examples. So, or an example, one of the most popular ways of developing um, of training balance in the elderly is by engaging in Tai Chi.
okay.
So it really helps. It really helps them like maintain balance. Um,
But
helps.
is it common here in Ghana?
Oh,
No.
so I even um, I posted a poll on IG recently that I was asking anyone like who knows any Tai Chi place, because I wanted to make sure I, I mentioned that place because
Yeah.
like it's a very popular thing that Tai Chi really helps the elderly with their balance.
Okay.
So like how can we get the word out there so that these Tai Chi places start
Can open
talking,
up.
yeah,
Yeah.
non-competitive, really chill environments.
They can get on YouTube, right?
Oh, Tai Chi. That one has to be very plain and uninteresting. You need
Oh,
an instructor and some people around,
okay.
and do your thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is that. If you're going to work with a physiotherapist, of course, there are ways to develop balance with the neuromuscular training. There's what we call a Bosu ball. It's a half globe.
Okay.
It's like a like an exercise ball, but it's just half,
Okay.
and there are ways to stand on it to help with uh, nerve nerve and what do you call it, muscle fiber recruitment, so that there is some more stability.
Okay.
So it's so quote unquote you are waking up some of the muscles that were asleep. And I mean it's very important because see the elderly they tend to, there are unfortunately there are some biochemical changes that happen at the level of the muscle as a person ages. In the elderly, they tend to have this, and so they might develop um, some kind of muscle atrophy. So the muscle becomes smaller, and they might also lose some strength in the muscle groups, which is what we call sarcopenia. And so the sarcopenia, they lose strength and the muscle mass.
Okay.
And of course, this can definitely be related to some of the falls that they have. And it's the process starts from the age of 35. So after the age of 35, per the decade, there's a 10% reduction in muscle mass. And investigators have found that it is mostly from the non-use of the muscles.
Okay.
So after 35, and funny enough, in the clinics, we do see that anecdotally, we do see that a lot of diseases happen after 35 years. If we're looking at high risk pregnancies, it's after 35 years.
Yeah.
There are also women with preeclampsia, that's hypertension in pregnancy with some problems with the urine, happens. It's very common after the age of 35 years. That's a risk factor. diabetes in pregnancy or gestational diabetes, very common after 35 years, you know, and some even hypertension, hypertension, which might be what we call essential hypertension. That's you can't um, readily explain from uh, some testings that you might do, not genetic testing. I mean, like some regular some of the regular tests that we might do, you might not, but then they would have the hypertension because it's genetically programmed. But then life, the onset of disease, it depends on a person's on how a person lives. Okay, so and that's from an epigenetic standpoint. So the things that you do would either let the condition um, rear its ugly head early or late, or not let it come at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So the things to do, making sure you eat a balanced diet. Of course, you must work with your nutritionist, making sure you eat well, making sure you move well, avoiding smoking anything, um, and also cutting down alcohol. The World Health Organization now even says that there is no safe alcohol level. It used to be 21 units for men, 14 units for women. Then it dropped to 14 units per week. 14 units per week for both men and women. Now we're saying that no level is safe. Okay, so that's with alcohol.
Okay.
Um, um, Optimal sleep, stress management, and love. Something to do, someone to love, something to look forward to.
Yeah.
So these are
Very
the
important.
things to do to have a good life.
Yeah.
And these have a way. These things influence the genes. Okay, and now you might say that, oh well, I'm just going to eat. I'm just going to eat some fast foods. Just once in a while, once a week. Nothing should
Convincing
happen.
ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
But you see, we found that literally 6 hours after consuming something that might be quote unquote deemed harmful, there are genetic changes to that effect in just 6 hours. So it's a cumulative effect.
Wow. So this, if it's genetic, then you can pass it on.
So yes and
Or
no. So
okay.
so this is what we call epigenetics. So there is no intrinsic change in the genetic structure.
Okay.
There's just
Okay.
some moieties that may be added or subtracted to the genetic material, but there's
Okay.
no intrinsic
Ah.
change.
Okay.
But then, still on what you said, research was done recently that found that women who had um, gestational diabetes. There are some changes at the cellular level in their muscle and how they metabolize fat and sugars. Those changes, which are pathological, which are bad, were passed down to their offspring. So this further emphasizes the need for preconception care.
Yeah.
If you are planning to get pregnant, you need to make sure that things are optimal. Your body is optimized for the pregnancy so that the offspring doesn't get some bad genetic material.
Yeah.
Because a mother who has gestational diabetes may eventually give birth to a baby that is big, and that baby has a risk of developing
Diabetes
diabetes in the
later.
future.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then we see the genetics at play again. I mean, that's one of the things that contributes to their onset of diabetes in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
So I've heard of stories
Hmm.
or seen online people who are elderly and they didn't really have a lifestyle of constant physical fitness.
Right.
But suddenly, one of them I saw, suddenly at the age of 50, she started engaging in physical
Mm.
exercise, and then she's doing all sorts of things. And
Yeah. Is it
how
the
real?
really ripped old woman? I've
No.
seen her too, but I think she
That one,
was
the
a
one I saw was
professional.
90 years. But this one recently was a 50-year-old lady
Okay.
who, according to the narration,
Mm.
had suddenly gone into exercise and she was very fit and
Okay.
running. And yeah, how real is that? Is it possible that you might not necessarily have, you might not have started like in your young age, but in your elderly age, you can,
Yeah.
start working out and then be fit, or eating well, whatever it is that
Yeah.
helps them to get fit at that age.
Yeah.
How
So
real is that?
oh, it's very real.
Okay.
There there is I mean the best time is now. Okay. Yeah. Like
Okay.
to quote John Cena 2006, my time is now.
The wrestler.
That's, can you see me? Yeah, so yeah, so the time is now. The best time is now.
Okay.
It wasn't yesterday.
Mm,
It's not tomorrow. It's
mm,
now.
mm,
And so the thing is, of course, the best time would have been years ago, because it's very hard to gain muscle. Okay.
mm,
And
mm,
so when you lose muscle passively, it's a very costly thing.
mm,
So like you're not doing anything is making you lose muscle, particularly after the age of 35.
mm,
And so now having to recover the muscle in old age is even more difficult because there are there are like hormonal issues when we look at how muscle responds to insulin, for example, in the elderly.
mm.
Its muscle protein synthesis isn't the best in the elderly, which is a stimulus from insulin.
Okay.
It can be a problem. Whether or so, yeah. Preserving, making sure that you carry your muscle mass from your young age to the older age is a really important thing to do.
Mm,
Um, however, once a person makes up their mind, they're elderly, and they make up their mind that they want to start engaging in physical activity, you need to explore, okay, so what modalities are we looking at?
okay.
Okay, so going to engage in the proprioceptive and flexibility, that's great. Resistance training, perfect, because the kind of muscle fibers that a person in their old age tend to have, like atrophy of,
Mm,
that's reduced size of, is the type 2 muscle fibers, and these are the muscle fibers that are primarily responsible for strength.
mm,
you know
mm.
so that's again one reason that they lack strength, that
Okay.
some of them lack strength. That's what
Okay.
we call sarcopenia. So the reduced strength and then reduced muscle mass.
Mm.
So resistance training helps to recover the mass to some degree.
Mm. What are
But
some of the examples of the resistance training?
oh, the weightlifting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
And
to clarify.
okay, yeah, the weightlifting.
Okay.
And but then it's always important that they get cleared by their primary care
Mm,
physician.
mm,
Okay. Because if we're going to look at, let's say, women, for example, who are more prone to osteoporosis,
mm,
um, they can develop fractures that we call pathological fractures. So they might be combing their hair and then the arm snaps, you know, or they
yeah.
might be walking and then, let's say, they something happens and then they get a hip fracture. Of course,
Mm,
the hip fractures are very common when they fall,
mm,
but those bones might have been brittle even before they fall,
okay.
which makes them prone to having hip fractures even more.
Yeah.
So they need to be seen by their gynecologists,
Mm,
the women,
mm,
so that whatever needs to be done for the management for the osteoporosis is done, so that it doesn't put them at risk of developing pathological fractures while they're engaging in their physical activity.
mm.
That's if this person is new to the game,
Yeah.
particularly.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, and also there are other things in old age like cardiac disease,
Mm,
some kinds of brain disease, kidney disease, you name it. So based on the issue that, or even pulmonary disease, that's lung disease. So based on what the person has, that will determine the road to recovery or partial recovery, after which the person can start engaging safely in exercise. And of course, the more intense the exercise, the more it tasks the systems that are affected. Because if one is going to engage in low intensity exercise, I mean, that's very, very easy to do, or the low moderate side, that's considerably easy to do. But then as you go higher, it's so at every point, one would need to work with their exercise professional
Yeah.
and
Okay.
also with their physician. Make sure that any
You're
condition
cleared.
is out of the way, especially the cardiac disease. Yeah,
So we shouldn't just look at these videos online and think that, oh,
yeah,
I
no,
can just get up 50 plus and then just go into
yeah,
exercise and then be fit.
yeah,
There are things that we need to consider,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
in order to do that.
yeah. It's what we
That's
call
good.
pre-participation screening. So before you participate in exercise, you need to be screened by a physician.
So then, how can one bounce back if, let's say, in their older years they were physically fit and there's been, I think you mentioned passive what?
Oh, you mean the atrophy? They start
No,
to lose their muscle.
yeah, for some time,
Yeah,
in layman's terms,
right.
they haven't engaged and you want to come back. So I guess it's the same way. You need to examine yourself, have yourself examined
Yeah, 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 yeah.
to be sure that you are fit in a certain way
Yes.
and you
Yeah,
don't
in a
have
certain
certain.
way.
I'm trying to speak plain English so that
Yeah, okay.
you don't have certain illnesses
Yeah,
or that
yeah,
will get aggravated.
yeah.
But is there another way, I mean, to bounce back apart from checking with your physician?
Well, that's I mean starting
Like
from a health,
if
yeah.
someone doesn't go to get checked,
hmm
is there are there some routines they can go through that they can still go through
Oh,
just to
yeah, that's the light intensity. Like taking leisurely strolls is really casual, it's really light. And so it's something that one can start with. Because that doesn't really task the systems.
yeah.
Everyone locomotes, everyone walks. And so it's a great place to start. Before I go on, just remember something that's really important. Um, if one is looking to bounce back, achieving a great daily step count is a good place to also start. And we are looking at 7,500 steps a day, 10,000 steps a day, 20,000 is like it's. I think it might be considered the gold standard, 20K.
20,000
I have
per
never,
day.
yeah, per day,
Okay.
but I have never done 20K. I used to do 10K when I was an entry level doctor, not because I
You're
wanted
doing
to,
a
but
lot of
because
work
I was
on campus. Okay.
yeah, in the hospital. I was doing a lot of walking.
Yeah.
So yeah, so achieving a great daily step count is good, because it encourages you also. I mean, there are hormonal things that happen. Some enzymes are
Okay.
sensitized. Some enzymes that are responsible for fat breakdown in the muscle are sensitized. So when you do start um, structured exercise, it enhances the fat
Okay.
catabolism. That's
Okay.
fat breakdown.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
So, but you don't have to jump to 7,500 right off the bat. It's always the little things that count. So, you check your average. If you're averaging 1,002, then now try to go a step further to 2,000. Then the following week, try and do 2,005 or 3,000 and just keep going up and up and up. But you can't hop into what you are supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Great, great, great. I think our time is fast spent, so we'll round up here.
Okay. I
So
mean, I think we didn't talk about children, so let me just
yes, yes,
speak briefly
yes,
about
please,
children.
yeah.
Children are great, and they deserve to have a great life. And one of the things that make for a great life is playing. Okay, so children need to play.
Yeah,
Children need to play. Children are glued to devices these days. Too much
terrible.
screen time.
Yeah.
So they're always indoors. They don't touch the dirt.
Mm, mm,
Um, they don't get hurt.
yeah,
They need to play.
yeah. They're too clean.
They're too clean, and that's also a problem because then they can develop allergies
Yeah,
as the years go by.
yeah.
So, the recommendations are for children to achieve at least 60 minutes of exercise per day, like every day per week. Okay, so,
Sorry. So when you say children, like from what age to what age?
oh, well, up to about 18 years, because then the recommendations from 18 changes. So that's when you need 150 minutes um, per week, at least,
So
of
this from
moderate
toddler,
intensity.
toddler.
Toddler. No, toddler isn't going to work out for.
Oh no. So okay. So you're talking about actual exercising.
No, so I mean, play. They run around and do stuff. 60 minutes per day, at least.
Yeah,
And
toddlers
so,
run around, right?
okay,
Yeah, toddlers are really active.
okay.
Unless you're the toddler age for the physicians is different from what we all know.
Oh, we all know. So, okay, toddlers run.
No, no, you're the expert. So please let me know. Maybe I have a wrong perception.
Oh, from the age they start walking and things. I mean, let them
They're very
play.
active. Yeah.
They should play. They need to eat a balanced diet, and it doesn't have to. You don't throw them into the wild. Play like the wind. No, no. So let them play. Let them have fun. Cumulatively, 60 minutes per day, every day for the week. Yeah.
So what would you, again? I've seen some videos online. What would you say about those? Those who um, start their children early and maybe obstacle course. In fact, just this afternoon I saw another one. A child from as young as 1.5 years, they started doing certain routines,
Right.
physical exercise routines, some that some gymnastic,
Okay.
routines,
Okay.
yeah, obstacle course, different kinds of things, and they start them off really young.
Okay.
What would you say? Is it good? Is it a good practice?
So that's outside the scope of my knowledge for now, but I
Okay.
would say that
Even weightlifting, like the one I saw, I think by the age of 3 or so, the child
yeah,
was lifting weight.
weightlifting. Okay.
Of course, weight that they can manage.
They
But
can manage
I mean, is it healthy for their
their
physiology?
physiology. So what I would say is that the brain is very plastic, and children's brains are way more plastic than adults' brains because
When you say plastic, what do you mean?
so their brains like learn a lot like at a very young age.
Okay.
Their brains are like a sponge. So it depends on the goal of that training. Are they being trained to become athletes in what they are training for? And so that goes a long way because you've started the neurological training very early. You started the neuromuscular training very early. And so when you look at psychology, I don't remember the exact figure, but if a person engages in an activity for at least 10,000 hours,
Okay.
then they start to become experts. So if the person is starting really young, then when they get to when while they are still young, they might be very skillful in that activity. But whatever the activity is, they need to have the nutrition to back it. So
Okay.
it's not just about doing. Someone can be on a hypocaloric diet for whatever activity that they are doing, and if it is strength based, they'll still have some strength gains, but when we look at the development of muscle mass, it's not going to be optimal. And children need energy to play.
Okay.
They need energy to also grow. And so the nutrition has to be optimized to ensure that there's enough energy to meet physiological demands,
Okay.
and then also that extra energy to meet the
Good.
extra activity that they are doing.
Okay.
And so this helps with the holistic development of the child, so that they don't develop issues relating to um, like a relative undernutrition sort of. Because if they were going to eat in a certain way that would be okay for just their to meet their physiological demands, yeah, cool. But when you add the activity, then there's an energy deficit. Okay, so then there's a reduced what we call energy availability, and this is very common among specific sportswomen. If
Okay.
we're going to look at the people who engage in gymnastics,
The
okay,
gymnast.
the gymnasts, um, they typically tend to have a low energy availability, and there are problems that come with it.
Okay.
So that's a reduced bone mineral density. They might have an eating disorder
Oh wow.
also, and the menstrual abnormalities.
Okay.
It was formerly known as the female athlete's triad, but now we just call it a red S. That's reduced relative energy deficiency in sports. Yeah, relative energy deficiency in sports. And so
Wow.
there's a whole host of things that go with it. It's a syndrome. So there are hormonal issues that go with it. And reduced bone mineral density, it makes them prone to developing some kinds of fractures, especially stress fractures. So there's always pain in the affected limb, and it can reduce the quality of life. So, and this is all because the nutrition isn't matched with that degree of activity. And it doesn't take long for all of this to start. From as little as uh, about about 6 weeks or so, that's
Okay.
when it can all start.
Wow.
Yeah. So the nutrition to match the physical activity is always important, and nutrition always has to match the physical activity depending on what goal you are looking at. If
Yeah.
it's for weight loss, yeah, there's a way to engineer the nutrition with the physical activity. But if we're going to look at altering body composition to make sure that there are muscle gains, then there's a way to also match. If you're looking at sports, there's a way to match it too. If the nutrition is here and your activity is up there, it's a bad thing. And your hormones can be thrown out of whack.
So we education is very important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You need to know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just get up and say that, oh, my child, I need to start them off early.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
then you just start some routine you don't
yeah.
really know about.
I mean,
That's
even with the weightlifting, um, so investigators have found that yes, weightlifting is great for for children, but they need to be guided. They need to have a trainer who has good form, a certified trainer, um, a certified trainer who can take the person through the routine.
yeah.
Otherwise, if the form is poor, they can even develop fascial injuries. So we call like those are growth plate
Okay.
injuries, because those tend to be the softest parts of a bone in growing children.
How does it manifest?
Fascial injuries.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like a fracture, sort of.
Okay.
So because you have it's like a weakness in the whole bone, and with poor form and lifting ways that the child might not be able to lift and just muscles through it anyway, they can develop those issues.
Okay.
So it has to be monitored. Yeah, but of course,
Okay.
resistance training is still great in children, and there's nothing wrong with it.
When you're talking about play and then screen time, again, some videos I saw online, and there are some parents who are intentionally like creating an environment for the kids to go out there and play and explore
Okay.
and allow them to fall and you know take all the
Mm,
risks. Because I mean, when you look at how God created the world,
okay.
I mean, it's meant to be explored.
Yeah.
But now everybody is like this.
Yeah, we're exploring through a screen.
How real is that? Virtual reality.
Don't get
But
me started.
yes, yeah, we talked about that some time ago. We have to come down to earth.
Yes,
You know, I think one of these days we have to tackle that subject
VR.
too. Like when you said it, really, I was like, wow, we are joking around with this. Sorry, we are deviating a bit, but yeah, we're joking around with this online virtual reality thing, but it has
Yeah,
serious effects.
I'm telling you.
So we'll come back to that one of these days. But yeah, we need to, from childhood into adult, we need to go out there,
Yeah,
and be active.
yeah.
I had neurosurgeon Totime
Mm,
Teddy.
yeah.
He came on some time ago. I think he came talk about heart attack,
Okay.
if I remember it well. And one thing he said that I'll never forget: our muscles are meant to be worked. So when
Mm-hmm.
you eat, you're supposed to go out there, and that's how it was in the past.
Yeah.
Way back in the past, we were very active. I mean, nomads and hunter gatherers.
Hunter gatherers. Yeah.
They don't sit,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what keeps them fit
Yeah.
because they eat and then they're out working,
Mm-hmm.
wandering from one place to the other, doing one thing or another,
Yeah.
and that helps with heart health.
Mm.
But here we are in our offices, we eat, come and
Yeah.
sit down.
Yeah.
You're not working out the muscle,
Mm-mm.
but the heart is still working
Mm-hmm.
as as if the muscles are being worked.
Mm.
So then over time, it gets weak.
Right.
I mean, he I don't know the technical terms, but
Right.
that's the understanding I got.
Right.
The heart doesn't stop doing its work.
Yeah.
It still continues to work, even when we are not working the muscles.
Mm.
So then that tends to affect the heart health.
Yeah. The
So
the muscle is one of the most important organs in the body,
yeah,
and the muscle actually releases hormones,
okay,
and it sends there is a muscle multi-organ crosstalk. So whenever the muscles contract, they send signals to different parts of the body
yeah,
and even
yeah,
to the brain.
yeah,
Okay, so it's that's one way that it also helps prevent strokes.
okay,
Of course, because of the cholesterol lowering effect of aerobic exercise, and it also helps with memory. Okay, short-term and long-term memory. There's a part of the brain called the hippocampus.
yeah,
So when you engage in exercise, a lot of exercise, especially the kind of exercise that is like a mix of aerobic and anaerobic, like especially with the anaerobic, it tends to create helps it helps with the formation of more blood vessels within the brain. It also helps with the hippocampal enlargement. And so like it just becomes really easy to remember things and store and retrieve information, and it helps reduce the risk of dementia,
yeah,
different
yeah,
types of dementia,
yeah,
and
yeah,
Alzheimer's is one of them.
yeah, yeah. Great, great, great. Okay, we have to round up here before
Yeah, I
we
can
go
go on and on
over.
and on.
So yeah, thank you so much. I mean, we've learned a lot. It's possible to stay fit. I mean, in summary, even if you either you didn't start from when you were young or you did and you stopped somewhere, it's possible to get back.
Yeah,
But make sure that you're doing it the right way. It's not just any and every exercise
yeah,
that you
yeah,
have to engage in. You need to speak with your physician,
yeah,
get examined,
yeah,
and then based on what the outcome of the examination is, then you
yeah.
know the kind of exercise to engage in. I mean, he's one of those doctors you can go and see,
For sure.
to tell you about yourself. But if you can't see a doctor, like you said, there are the low intensity
Yeah,
exercises that you can do in your home, walking,
literally
you
just taking a
know.
leisurely stroll.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's better, again, one of the things he said, it's better to do little exercise than none at
than
all.
none at all.
So no matter how small the exercise, just do it. whether in your house or out. And it's cumulative. That's another thing I think most of us either forget or we don't know. Because we're all into, you wake up, you go to the gym 1 hour hot.
Hot.
Or if you're working 1 hour hot, you're working, but it can be like pockets in quotes of exercises during the day or in the week. And cumulatively, it will help to stay fit.
On a case-by-case basis.
On a case-by-case, yes. Because there are some who have certain illnesses that will prevent them from engaging in certain form of exercises. Yeah. But basically, there's a way around all these things. So we just need to go to the right people to get educated.
Yeah.
Then we can live optimum lives. Yeah. Because media, like I said, I want to be running marathons when I'm 90.
That's right. High five. Yeah, masters athletes are doing a lot too. Yeah.
Masters.
Yeah, masters athletes or master athletes. So that's after the age of 35. So we have 70-year-olds in marathons. Yeah. So it's very possible.
Oh yeah. Very, very. And by God's grace, you find me.
Of course.
So yes, let's keep moving, let's keep exercising, eating well, taking care of our bodies and our minds. I think the mental health is also very important.
Yeah, for sure.
In fact, when you're talking, one of the things that came to mind was depression.
Yeah.
Sometimes depression also prevents people from engaging physical exercises. So.
And just to piggyback off what you just said, it's actually really helpful. So you might have that inertia to engage in the physical activity, but when you do exercise, we have beta endorphins that are released, which really help with your mentation. So you start to feel really good about yourself.
True. So if you're feeling depressed, you don't feel like exercising, just get up.
Yeah.
Okay. There are times when I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to exercise, but once I go and put my attire on, it's like some vim. So don't allow the depression to get you down. Just go out there and do some form of physical exercise, and you'll feel better. It won't necessarily take away the issue, but it helps you manage it better. Yeah, so it clears up. So thank you so much, Dr. Kwame Aryee.
It is I, anytime.
I call him matey.
Tech savvy, Abby Wasabi.
It's been good having you again. And
thank you for
having me. Like I said earlier, we'll come back again and talk about that virtual reality thing. We need to expose it.
Oh, please.
For what it is. So I want to thank everybody else too for making it tonight. I think it's been a long one today. I want to apologize for going beyond the time. But I believe that it's been worth it. And we've learned a lot. So if you have any questions, I didn't even check the YouTube to see if anyone commented. Were there any comments? Oh, were there questions or just comments? Okay, so my producer is saying there weren't questions. So I'll go there and read your comments and respond. But if you do have questions, you can still post them. The video will still be online and I'll direct them to our doc here. So God bless you all for coming and God bless you for making it, for educating us.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So if you can please pray with us.
Okay. Let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this enlightening session. It's our prayer that may this information change lives and may they be encouraged to be more physically active. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. So don't forget, if you haven't subscribed, go to the ABBY IMANI REVEALS Show YouTube, subscribe, like the videos, share them, and let's all learn and live the abundant life that Christ has given us. Thank you once again, and God willing, we'll see you next week. Bye.